When I went to school, I was told to not ask so many questions. During one of my first jobs, I was told, "Don't smile so much, you seem unserious." But these early experiences later led me to realize something powerful. In a complex world, it's not fierce power nor perfection that leads to progress. It's curiosity and care. Curiosity, a willingness to ask questions, and a smile can change the situation. Asking a question can change the trajectory of a meeting by asking who is not in this room that should be. And a warm smile can inject energy into a meeting. And these are the keys to a leadership that goes beyond the surface and drive real transformation. I grew up in the Swedish countryside with my feet literally in the soil of my family's garden, surrounded by hundreds of apple trees. And my great-great-great-grandfather, he invented a new type of apple, an apple that still carries my family name. And my grandparents, they told me something important. Treat every apple as an egg with care. And never ever put only the shiny apples on top in the basket to sell. This philosophy is, for me, the very basis for entrepreneurship, honesty, integrity, and hard work. And that is important to remember. And during my young adulthood, I was planning to apply for a job as a tourist guide in my hometown. But at the time, I didn't know too much about the churches in the area. And that was quite evident during the interview, because the recruiting manager, he told me, "Honestly, you don't know anything about what you're going to represent here, but you do have the right attitude and you do ask the questions to learn. So I will give you this chance." And this mindset has stayed with me throughout my different professional roles. So take a moment and consider if you have asked a curious question and where you actually ended up somewhere unexpected. When I was young, I had big dreams, wild dreams, I would say. I wanted to become the first female Secretary General of the United Nations here. But that dream and passion has led me to work with business solutions towards United Nations peacekeeping missions. It has led me to become the chairman of the Swedish Association for UN Business, and now being a very proud and humble board member of UNICEF Sweden. And multilateralism lays at the very heart of me. As a newly graduated political scientist, I started working for a provincial government. And the governor, he told me, make sure that you work in both public and private sector, because that will give you different perspectives. During that assignment, I also realized the potential with mentorship. Several years later, I got the great opportunity to become a mentee to one of Sweden's top industrialists. And he told me, remember that life comes as a package deal. You should always have a holistic perspective on development. So when the world is looking at only to the shiny apples, we should make sure to value the whole basket. True leadership doesn't happen overnight. It's one choice, one action, step by step. And that is important to bear in mind. So we must care to invite stakeholders that presumably don't have the same views as we do, because they will bring different perspectives. And we must dare to repeatedly put the questions on the agenda that the majority of the delegates would rather not have there. But as we know, in order to have the full holistic view, we need to bring them back. And for many of us working with sustainability, this has been the very situation, how sustainability and business is interconnected. So once and over again, put that back onto the agenda. I have had the pleasure to work at the crossroad of many global challenges. So starting off as a geopolitical analyst and head of sustainability for the defense and security company Saab, I worked at the very nexus of trade policy, security and business. At the engineering and advisory company AFRY, I worked at the heart of the energy trilemma, where we need to balance affordability, security of supply and climate concerns. One of the most pressing challenges when I worked with sustainability at Telia was to make sure that we as a company had no adverse impact on children online. So we joined forces with other telecom companies, actually our competitors, but jointly trying to stop the distribution of child sexual abuse material. This also reinforces the importance of social sustainability. First of all, we need to make sure to protect the most vulnerable in society, and then also to unleash the full potential of children. Another rewarding cooperation is to work between business, the public sector, civil society, multilateral organizations when we do business in complex markets, where we have political instability, weak regulations, even corruption. The way forward is cooperation. And I had this assignment for the Invest and Trade Agency, Business Sweden, where we jointly try to increase the knowledge for Swedish companies for actually pursue sustainable strategies also in complex markets. And just take a look around. It's indeed a very challenging global outlook at the moment. The World Economic Forum has presented its global risk report, and if we look in the short term, 2 years' time, as perceived by the business sectors, the main risks are interstate conflict and social polarization. 10 years term, about the long term, then we have the loss of biodiversity, we have extreme weather and climate change being perceived from the business sector as the main risks. The world is not on its way to present concrete climate action plans so we could stay below the 1.5 degrees Celsius target aligned with the Paris Agreement. 50% of the global GDP is dependent on well-functioning ecosystems, and definitely that is being challenged by the loss of biodiversity. So we have also democracy, market economy and free trade being attacked from various places. So indeed, it is a negative outlook for many of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And that's why we need to focus on innovative solutions, on resilience, on circular economy to actually have the impact that resource efficiency can have. And this is the time for leadership. And it's a leadership that is long-term. It has the holistic systems thinking, where we recognize the importance of economic development, but also the social consideration and the environment. And we need a leadership that looks behind the corner to see preparedness and the resilience. And we need new types of partnerships between different types of actors, sectors, countries and regions. But indeed, there are days when I doubt, will there ever be possible to change the current development? But I just have to sit down with my 3 almost grown-up children, and then I realize, indeed, there are so many reasons why we should continue to work with sustainable development. And then I also remind myself, I promise myself that I will never turn bitter. We are all angry, sad, worried, and many feelings, but we shouldn't rely, we must keep the ability to act and not let bitterness prevail. And Swedish companies has shown for a very long time leadership in terms of innovative solutions, integrating sustainability into the very core of their operations. And I was very proud at the time when I could present at CNN in Chile about this very task from the Swedish business community. Today, I'm working at the Confederation of Swedish Enterprise, representing 60,000 Swedish companies, working closely with the International Chamber of Commerce and through the platform Swedish Leadership for Sustainable Development. And we just need to remind ourselves, it is possible with sustainable solutions, and it's absolutely essential for us to have a resilient and prosperous world. And today, we do have all the information we need in the world today, but yet we often lack understanding. So, for you here as the future leaders, we just need to remind ourselves to be kind enough to care, and bold enough to act, and curious enough to believe that it is possible. So, if someone tells you, don't ask questions, ask too. And never ever underestimate the power of a warm and genuine smile. Thank you.